Comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. First item is the discussion of the formal agenda. And we do have a change. We are going to remove ordinance 2423 public hearing from the agenda this evening, and we'll schedule a work session in the future.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to talk about?
Chair, for the members of the board, one of the options today, obviously with only 3 board members, we'll have to have unanimous agreement. And I think there's still some questions from some board members about the details of the ordinance and kind of how we got to where we are and the timing of it. And so, given the fact that we have 3 tonight, what I would recommend is that we go ahead and pull it, which means that when it comes back to the board, we'll have to do the first and the second hearing again, but schedule a work session, give the board the opportunity to ask whatever questions that you might have, get some direction about how you'd like us to proceed. And then I would suggest that if the board is feeling comfortable at that point, that we go ahead and schedule the first and second hearing in a timely manner. Obviously, this is a topic that we've been discussing for over a year. We've been really transparent both at the legislature and locally about what our strategy has been, and with industry. I don't think anybody's surprised by our strategy, but I think it has been a while because the legislature obviously took a 6-month bite out of the calendar. And then we're going into the short session in January. So we are leaving one session and going into another. And I think to really Clatsop County's credit and others like LOC and AOC, we did make a ton of progress with the issue with the legislators. I think we had the votes to pass. It did pass the House. I think we had the votes in the Senate. It just got stuck in the Senate committee because of the transportation plan and a lot of other politicking that was going on at the end of the session. So I feel good about that. But I do think that there's some board members that still have some questions. And so if that's the case, I think it's always good to go in eyes wide and give everybody the opportunity to vet their questions. I did provide the presentation that I was going to do today. We do have probably one of the longer agenda items, chronicling how we got here. So what I would just ask the board is that if it is your desire to pull it, and it is that we do reschedule it fairly quickly, have a conversation, try to answer any questions and concerns, and then get a commitment from the board to put it back on. So,
okay. Yeah, I would agree. I really appreciate the presentation. It's extremely thorough and goes through step by step.
And I even have more to say about it when I actually talk about it. So.
Well, you'll get that opportunity soon. I think we'll want to bring this back next month for a work session. And then, as you mentioned, we won't have any public hearing this evening, but we'll schedule those first and second hearings, or first and second readings shortly after the work session.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead.
So for the turnaround, in order for it to be able to begin in January of 2026, do we have?
We have time, but I think that we will have to be, we will have to make a diligent effort to get a calendar and to get it through. And I think when we talk in work session about the details, there's some components of it that we should talk about, including timing of the actual rate increase. Right now we have it in January, but that date has some flexibility to it. It's really up to the board. January was the earliest we could do it because it takes lead time to communicate with the campgrounds and the lodging facilities who does the collection for us, and they get paid to actually collected. And I just want to reiterate, this is a tax on the lodgers, not on the facilities. And so, I just think that, you know, there's some of those conversations that we're going to have to really have. I think that, you know, our strategy from the onset was first reading right as the legislature was meeting, and then the second one after the legislature, because we would then have an indication of whether we had to make any adjustment, a smaller adjustment, or the adjustment that we started with, which was the 2-cent adjustment. And so, you know, it's just, we didn't quite get it over the end line. This is a big issue for the county. You know, as I've said over and over again, public safety and justice is more than half of our discretionary budget. It's, you know, it's not a small, you know, enterprise for the county. And I think the sheriff and the rest of the criminal justice leaders do a great job. I mean, I think we have one of the best criminal justice functions in the state, and I think we should proudly, you know, relish that. But this is an important topic, and I just don't want it, given all the progress that we have made, I would hate to see us not move something forward, because our strategy was to put pressure on the entire system and make sure that the county takes care of itself. Because we've been waiting for the state to help take care of us, and it just hasn't happened yet. I think we're close. And as I've also mentioned, the ordinance does have kind of an escape hatch, which is if the state gives us flexibility, the board can reduce the rate. So we're not tied to the rate. This ordinance gives rate flexibility to the board. It effectively creates a maximum rate that we can't collect over, but it gives the board the ability to then establish a lower rate at your discretion by resolution. And so that's a feature that wasn't in the previous ordinances. And so, and that's when I've spoken to Orla since the legislative session ended, I have explained that that feature is in the ordinance. Yeah. And I think that does help them because they know, because I think there's a resignation from industry that there is going to be a change. But the timing of that change and what that change may be, because obviously if the change is 50-50, that's not going to give us as great a flexibility as if it was 60-40 or 70-30 the other way, or if they would just write in the definition of public safety impacts by tourism in the definition. So, and again, we've communicated this to the legislature, we've communicated it to industry. It's been in the newspaper numerous times. I think we've done as transparent of a process as we can do, given what our limited resources are. But that's what the question is. So if the board wants to pull it, all I would ask is you direct me to get it on to a work session agenda sooner than later, but one when we can talk about that.
Yeah, so I think that's the full complement of our board. And then also, I think you're right, when we're looking at whatever the legislative fix is, we've seen so many iterations of it during the last session. We don't know how that's going to affect it. So, and I'm glad we have it in the ordinance, you know, the direction that we can modify that rate as needed. Yeah. Any other comments, questions? I mean, the date is flexible of implementation, but it also means that if we do something, you know, you're not going to be capturing that revenue for a longer period of time. And we're in a real issue. You know, we need the money for public safety. We need the funding.
And you know, and I'm just going to reiterate this because I think part of who we're trying to help is not part of our organizational structure, but it's the rural fire agencies. Rural fire agencies have zero access to any revenues beyond their property taxes. And so, whereas we have access to other revenues, they don't. And so when you look at Napa, Hamlet, Cannon Beach, you know, and the others, you know, we're their only hope to really deal with some of these service impacts. And when you look at the number of major accidents that we've had on 26, 101, and 30, and these are all volunteer fire agencies that are responding. I mean, they need the equipment and the staff to respond. And, some of their budgets would be doubled by what we can pass on to them because their budgets are so small. It's not an indication of how big of a pass through it is. I mean, some of these fire agencies work on $30,000 budgets for the whole year.
Last,
I mean, it's,
I made was last, yeah.
yeah. So anyhow, I think that, we're obviously trying to make the emergency response system fully capable, given that our population is tripling at certain peak times. And we really are trying to provide services to 120,000 people with a tax base of this that really supports 40,000. So we have to figure out what are the mechanisms to make sure tourists pay for some of those impacts. And it's not dollar for dollar. I just want to make that really clear. I mean, no adjustment will dollar for dollar pay for the tourist impacts. We're just trying to pay a small portion of it in a way that allows us not to have to actually reduce services and service levels.
Right.
So,
Commissioner Webb.
Can I add something to that? As your liaison to the Medics Advisory Committee, this is a major issue for medics because they need that backup from the unincorporated areas, and basically what it becomes is a hindrance to medics' effectiveness because they need that shadow behind them. And of course, in response, then often the sheriff has to send people. So it's just, it's part of this wonderful cooperative alliance that we have in the county, where all of, I've never worked in a county that has had as much cooperation among emergency management people, especially in some counties where the city emergency responders won't go to the unincorporated areas, and that does happen in some places in Oregon. Doesn't happen. So it's an immediate need, and it's when medics is involved, it's human lives, human lives that are at stake.
No, it's a good point. In rural communities, you need to pull together and to survive otherwise.
Absolutely.
Any other comments? Questions? We'll remove ordinance 24-23, the public hearing from the agenda. We still have a public hearing on ordinance 25-10, which will be the XDR regulations. So that'll still be. Any other questions on the agenda this evening?
We just make sure that we schedule it and, make a point to have everyone here.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I think my frustration with this topic of conversation has been the gap in time from when we had our first hearing till now. But the other one being that seems to be a misunderstanding of who is actually being taxed in this process. And a point of clarification for us as a county is making sure that individuals know we are not placing this tax upon our local constituents. This is not a local tax. This is.
yeah, and I mentioned this to you, Commissioner, but I think in all my conversations during the legislative session is some of the legislators were the most vociferous in responding to the statements where lodging facilities were saying that it was a tax on them. They were the ones clarifying for everybody that it's not a tax on the facility, it's a tax on the lodger. And so, because that's the way it's actually written in state statute, and that's the way it's written in our in our ordinance, only because our ordinance reflects state statute. And so it is a tax on the market, and that's the way it's always been. It's not new, and the county's ordinance does not divert in any way from state statute. So,
I guess it's a help us help you when you come visit mentality.
yeah, so
Any other comments on either the agenda this evening or the rolling agenda through September?
so we'll be adding this sometime. So
And we'll,
As long as I'm comfortable waiting, as long as we can get it kicked through the field goal before January.
Sounds good. Okay. Let's move to the short-term rentals and floating residences. Neil Henriksen, Community Development Director. So glad we get to talk
You know,
SDR.
just
It
when you
wouldn't be,
thought
it
there
wouldn't be a
was
meeting without.
nothing to talk about SDR.
Say this one's my fault.
We'll be blaming you.
It's fine.
Community development staff, we recently had an application to do a second short-term rental in a float house on a parcel that is entirely water and entirely zoned for aquatic conservation too. The original float house, or the first float house that we licensed, was licensed in 2020. And at that time, we didn't have any regulations in law regarding short-term rentals. And then it wasn't then until 2022, we made that change and we went through the referendum. And so we didn't in 2022 include aquatic conservation two or any of the other environmental zones and the resource plans, simply because that's not where single family homes are typically allowed. So we did tell the applicant that we couldn't permit a new one. The one that is there now is considered non-conforming, so they can continue to operate. And in fact, they're in the process of renewing their license for that one. But that we could not permit another one in the parcel or even in that zone. And so the applicant wrote back to staff talking about the potential benefits that a second or allowing short-term rentals in that zone in float houses could bring to the county related to the provision of transient lodging for transient workers, people who are only here for a short time, and obviously the tourism aspect of it. And so after discussing with the county manager and county council, we decided to bring it to your board to get some direction. If you would like to create a separate set of standards for float houses to operate as short-term rentals, we can put together some amendments, but it will take us some work. We would, because short-term or rentals, because float houses are not covered by the state building code, we would have to develop different life safety standards for them, because we can't just rely on what's in the housing code because it's not applicable and we don't enforce it on floating houses. So we would have to look at that. We would have to do some changes to our code so that we could allow a second short-term rental on the same parcel, which we don't allow anywhere else right now. In the short-term rental codes, either for Arch Cape or the other zones in the county. We would want to, depending on where the float houses are located, we have about 45 of them in the county right now. Depending on what zone they're in, we may need to do full exceptions to be able to allow short-term rentals in some of those zones if it's outside aquatic conservation too. Talk about life safety codes. So there would be some work that we would have to do. And so it's really why we wanted to come to your board to get some direction. If you want to move forward with this, then we would have a third set of regulations that we would use to cover for some for the float houses.
I have a couple of questions. Are all float houses in AC2 zones?
Well, that I don't know. We didn't have time to do a lot of in-depth
Okay.
research to look at where each of the 45 are in relationship to the zone.
Okay.
A majority of them are in the John Day River, which does have an aquatic conservation 2 zone on it, but there may be others that are outside of the John Day River or out, by Woody Island and other places on the
Right.
estuary.
Right.
Those would probably need a goal exception. We did talk to the state about this just to see if they would have any concerns. There may be potential impacts to the owner of the short-term rental floating house because their lease may only allow them for private use. And so if you convert to a commercial use, then you would have to go through a different lease process with DSL and go through a commercial leasing process. Anything that's in the wildlife refuge would not be able to be used as a short-term rental. I did confirm that with just.
I would be, I can tell you, I read your report very carefully and asked a lot of questions of the county manager about it because this is a whole new, whoa, what? In my 7 years of public service on this board, this is the first time anybody has ever said anything about SDRs. It's new. I would be opposed to any STRs in float houses because I have been working for several years to try to get our folks who run STRs to very carefully have instructions inside that dwelling for emergency management purposes. I've been unsuccessful. I think that every STR should have a poster, handouts that talk to people about what to happen in an emergency management situation. And haven't been successful for the houses that sit on dirt. So I can't imagine being successful for houses that sit on water and have incredibly more important. I mean, an inundation of water in a river where there's a floating home is a major escapade. I mean, it's a danger. People die. I don't know how many people are familiar with some of the floating homes that are around the Portland area and in Multnomah County. And in Multnomah County, we had people die, at high tides. And so remember, the tides go all the way to the Willamette River. And so it's a major issue. And I just think it's a public safety issue that we can't afford. That we just can't afford. And so I would be opposed to anything.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. I am curious about Portland. Do they have short-term rental units? I mean, is this a thing? And
Don't know.
okay. Commissioner Banks?
I'm interested in exploring it, to see if there's other regions that have short-term rental, opportunities on their waterways. I feel like if we've already done it, we've already let the cat out of the bag, and allowed short-term rentals in a float house. It's kind of hard to walk things back if we've already allowed it, but I'd also want to explore the simplest way to do this, and not turn it into another situation where we have this tiny, itty bitty little. It's a tiny little region that has special rules. And so how to avoid that, I'd be interested in, but yeah, just exploring. What does Portland do? What are other regions doing?
So the operating standard, maybe go over why you would need a little set of operating standards,
So,
whole new set.
yeah, so floating structures are not covered by the state building code, the Oregon Residential Specialty Code. So there really are no standards, and things like window height and things will probably not work with a floating structure because they're constructed differently than when you would a stick built home. So there may be something you can probably carry over a lot, fire extinguishers and all of that, but when it comes to egress and if you have to have a second egress out of a structure, you come in off your ramp onto your floating dock, but if you need a second exit, where does that go? And how do you make sure that that doesn't just have somebody drop into the water?
So who permits building a float house?
I don't think anybody does.
So this is basically an unpermitted process in Clatsop County, these float houses along the John Day River, and
DSL doesn't?
They don't,
Yeah, the
they don't
lease,
look at the building codes.
yeah, they have a
do
lease
the
on
water.
the submerged lands most of the time, but I don't think they have anything beyond that.
Beyond that,
Yeah.
just.
And
so there's no regulation on
Not the building
the
itself.
building
Not the
itself.
building.
we do permits for siding and replacement and things, but there's not actually a building permit that,
There's not a building code then.
no, there's not a building.
And so are we unique in that? Or is that, I would just like to do a little bit of exploratory before, you know, saying yes or no, not interested. Just to see if there is some sort of
Well, I mean, it is,
process.
if you don't have any of those standards, and then you're trying to create a commercial use out of it, seems counterintuitive to me, and this wouldn't seem like that's something that you would wanna weigh in, and get into it.
I definitely don't want the county developing, the wheel, if that makes sense. If the wheel is already developed somewhere else, how can we mimic the successful wheel of someone else? Not.
I mean, I get the attractiveness of, if I'm coming to the area, oh, how cool would it be to stay on, boat house? What an experience that. I do think that it creates a lot of problems for us if we don't have any real, standards. And then you're allowing for commercial use on something that's, just
Yeah,
doesn't
which
seem-
is why it would take what Gail is
Creating a whole
suggesting,
new operating-
creating its own.
I don't know that I don't think I'm into that for that.
But we can do some more research and come back to you, and I'm sure there'll be more questions as we get answers to some of these.
Well, I'm
So-
just curious, did we have to, maybe I shouldn't say it out loud. But did we have to permit the first one? I mean, if it's a building on a waterway that doesn't have building codes or like, I'm curious, who insures it? Because how, so I guess I'm falling down a rabbit hole a little bit of if these are buildings that we don't control, there's no code compliance, there's no, then why would somebody need to seek to have a permit from us if it's not part of our buildable land? But maybe these are words I should just keep in my inside voice. I don't know.
So as an example, if somebody owned a house in Cove Beach or Arch Cape and it was built in 1940, before the county had permitting requirements and issued permits and anything, they can still use that home as a short-term rental. Didn't pass any code in 1940. A lot of times it doesn't pass today's code, which is why they have to do a lot of upgrades to make it safe and available for commercial use. So it's a comparable situation, that the fact that something may not have been constructed with a permit doesn't mean that it's necessarily unsafe, but it can still be used, because some things just don't have permits because they're old.
Right.
But once you put a commercial use in there and you're letting people stay in there, potentially putting them in harm's way.
Yeah.
Then, that was the reason the county adopted the STR ordinance of 2018, to develop operating standards for
Safe.
life and safety.
Yeah.
issues.
Do they pay property taxes being on a waterway?
Yes.
They do, okay, so, I just, you drive by and you see houses and you assume that they're,
45.
yeah. I would be curious of a little bit more exploration, just to see, how other districts handle the
Yeah.
thought process of a float house.
We will.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is one of more conversations.
See, I had to find something to keep you. For some additional clarification, so in this particular case, with the application that generated this discussion. We would have to do an amendment that would also allow more than one STR on the same parcel, which, as I noted earlier, we don't allow anyone else in the county to do if they're land-based, so I don't know what your
I would
thoughts
not
are
be.
about that.
I would not be.
How is water a parcel?
It has a bottom.
As
Well, so are they rent, are they renting water as a tax lot? I guess I'm just,
No, they're renting the bottom.
because you would think that they're. Okay,
There is a land water connection with the lot is what I'm imagining because there is access
Yeah.
to the water.
But the parcel itself is entirely water. It was created in 2008. They went through a partition process and split up a larger water parcel into two parcels.
and so they want
they've
to
already-
put a short-term rental on the same parcel as the other one, and then the other parcel is,
They already
Yeah,
have.
yeah, so on their water parcel, they already have a float house. There's two float houses on the
Okay.
parcel already, and those are existing. The one is already licensed as an STR. They want to come in and license the second one as an STR. So, they would put two STRs on the same tax lot, on the same parcel.
Well,
we don't
wouldn't your,
build houses on like that.
well, we've had the issue with ADUs. You know, when we first did our new ADU stuff,
Yeah,
we had some inquiries from people who wanted to add a second. And I remember we made the decision that we weren't gonna do that. So I don't see how that this is any different.
Yeah, state rules also for ADUs, in the rural lands don't allow it to be used as a.
Yeah,
yeah, so it's
so it's,
a second home built on the same parcel, which is not something that our tax lots do anyway. So. Yeah,
So again, I don't know if Gail, if you have any more questions, I just think.
That was probably the biggest one, because that would be a very significant change.
yeah,
So maybe as Gail gets some of this information, just during some of our meetings, we can touch base with Gail on this, so we can do a little deeper dive before we come back into a work session. So.
Yeah.
yeah. I think about the fact that, rural communities everywhere, if we were allowed to build a second home on our parcel, we would have already, outside of the ADU conversation. Because we've always been stuck into this 2-acre lock, basically for our homes and for urban communities, and so that kind of blows my mind a little bit, but yeah,
It's the water factor.
it's
Yeah.
the water factor. And I don't know how to navigate the water. Sorry.
Oh, the Coast Guard's here, so they.
Oh, shoot, I am curious though, so I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chair, if it's
Some compliment.
okay, we have a few minutes, can the county clerk just come up real quick
Yes.
and give an update, Tracy?
Good evening. Yeah, I wanted to follow the circle completely through regarding the Cannon Beach recount. And any questions, we did conduct the recount on July 10th. And not a single vote changed.
Yeah.
So the results are as they stood. And we will be having a debrief or what do they call it? After action review from the Secretary of State's office. We'll be providing that. Once they get through with that, but I guess they're slower there than we are. But I did go back and I was listening to the hearing after I had left during the work session. I know, Commissioner Baines, you had some questions regarding what designates an automatic recount and how do we compute that? Just for my own.
Since you were fairly right and I was wrong, she needs to clarify for my sake, so.
A calculator. Oh, sorry.
Is that 0.02?
It is 1/5 of 1%.
So it's 0.00, so
No,
1/5 of
Point
0.002.
Yeah.
Point zero
Point,
0.025. Wait, that's 1/4.
Yeah.
1/5 is 0.002, sorry.
But the Secretary of State provides a calculator.
This is a math class for all of us. So.
we plug in the numbers, and I actually, had done that to one of the races that you were concerned about, because yes, we were watching that race very carefully. Number one, one person was ahead at one point, and then it switched. And then it switched again,
Mhm.
and it was always close, and they always stayed within this 2 to 4 points range. But how the calculation works is you take the votes of the candidate with the highest amount of votes, so the person that would have actually have won. And the candidate with the second highest votes. And you take that total and figure the difference,
Mhm.
and it's 2, based on our calculations. But it's 1.44 based on if you take the 0.002. At that point, we round down.
Oh, okay. Well, it's math class.
Yes.
If it was 1.5, you would have rounded up, so
And I just think it shows you that the threshold for an automatic recount
it's small.
is small.
Yeah, well, and I also, it circles back to everybody, your vote counts.
Every vote does count.
Yeah, it does. At the end of the day.
Every human counts, remember?
Yeah,
That's how you count.
Human counts.
Well, they do. But, yeah, and we follow a directive that's issued by the state when we had to do the automatic or the demand for recount. What happens in that case is the person or persons who want to demand the recount notify the Secretary of State's office, and they in turn notify us that it has been demanded. They make a deposit, and then we coordinate with the state on when and where it's gonna take place. And then provide the results to them. And this one was easy.
Kids, math is important.
It is. It's important.
I'm gonna use that. The 7th grade math percentages matter.
That's right.
So in this case, the Cannon Beach recount was paid for by the petitioner.
Correct. I don't, it was Catherine Beskin. She's the one who filed the demands for both of the measures. She made her deposit of $15 per race or per precinct, and it's just one precinct. And then we send the state a bill for any staff overtime involved and any recount forged time that we were charged. So that's what they paid for. And we will be reimbursed that when she pays for bill from the state.
And again, the after action is the Secretary of State setting this up.
Setting us up with their election night reporting.
They did not have a date for that, which seems odd when this is the one race that you had this issue with,
Yes, but
you know, reporting it incorrectly on the website. You would think that you'd want to get that.
and it has to do with a lot of turnover in
Yeah.
the Secretary of State's elections division. When the new Secretary of State came in, we got a bunch of new people. So
That's too
Yeah.
bad.
But this is something obviously that Tracy and her staff are gonna watch next time.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that,
we'll be posting our,
because it's a great example of when the clerk's office at a county level does all the right things
Mhm.
and still can get pulled into controversy, not of our making, but just on error on the Secretary of State's side. And it's unfortunate because it does call into question the integrity of the system, but the system actually worked. In this case, the recount, validated that it was exactly as the county always had it. But it's unfortunate how that works. The interface between the Secretary of State's office and the county is vital. It's really a state election process fundamentally, and that's a vital link. And now that we know this is a possibility,
Yeah.
we'll make sure that we look at the results and that they're accurate on the state side.
Right away.
Well, thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate you coming back and reporting out to us. Congratulations on a successful, process.
Finally done for us,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
great job to your staff.
yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You've made my night, math matters, so, you know. I'm using this for a while.
All right, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. All right, do we have anything else we need to discuss in work session?
We have to figure out how algebra matters now.
Oh, boy. Next.
Over my head.
Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn for 19 minutes and
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna make you get up right again here.
It's a-
The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Quila,
Here.
Vice Chair Banks.
Here.
Commissioner Wakua,
Commissioner Wakua is excused,
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
and Commissioner Thompson is excused. All right, the agenda approval. We had a work session prior to this, and we discussed an item on the agenda, which is ordinance 24-23, and we did decide to continue. We're going to pull it. We're going to pull it from the agenda, bring it back in work session, and hold the first and second reading at that time. We did have the first reading prior in January. We then had the legislative session. We're waiting for some action to come out of that. Now that we have not had any legislative fix, we're going to have to come back and reset and bring this back and discuss at a work session. Any comments? Questions?
I move to approve the agenda, the amended agenda with the removal of item 14.
Second.
Okay, we've had a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is a proclamation, United States Coast Guard Month. And Commander Salen from the United States Coast Guard, if I can have you come up and present, and we want to bring and make introductions.
Good evening. My name is Commander Jeffrey Salen. I'm the Base Astoria Commanding Officer. With me today is Chief Warrant Officer Madrid and Chief Ross. And so
Welcome.
I prepared some comments, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
As you know, the Coast Guard has a strong history in Clatsop County, dating back to the U.S. Life Saving Service and the U.S. Lighthouse Service, both predecessors of today's Coast Guard. Over the last year, we welcomed the Coast Guard cutter Florence Finch to Clatsop County, the second fast response cutter, and we are preparing for the arrival of the Coast Guard cutter Jeffrey Palazzo in October of 2026. Construction of their future moorings at Tongue Point is planned for completion in the next 6 months, and a contract to build a maintenance support building at the head of this pier should be awarded soon. The air station in Warrenton is scheduled to gain a 4th aircraft, and base anticipates the arrival of additional support personnel. We expect the service's presence in Clatsop County to exceed 500 military and civilian employees before the end of 2026. Coast Guard looks forward to working with Clatsop County to achieve these and many other goals. Thank you for considering the proclamation to recognize August 2025 as Coast Guard Month here in Clatsop County.
Thank you so much. We like the Navy. We love the Coast Guard. We appreciate having you here every year to proclaim August as United States Coast Guard Month. So thanks again for being here. Welcome to all of you. Do we have any comments or ready for a motion? Commissioner Banks?
A comment prior to the motion. I really appreciate everything that you do. I wish that you guys could stick around more than 3 years. I kind of get attached to the children that I teach, but I absolutely appreciate everything. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Banks.
Okay.
All right, are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve, go ahead.
Commissioner Webb wants to do the motion.
Okay. I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming August 2025 as United States Coast Guard Month and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming August 2025 as United States Coast Guard Month and authorize the chair to read then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming August to be United States Coast Guard Month, whereas August 4th, 2025 marks the 235th birthday of the United States Coast Guard, and whereas the Coast Guard is one of the oldest organizations of the federal government, established in 1790, and whereas the citizens of Clatsop County, Oregon, share a rich history with the United States Coast Guard and have provided a home for the Coast Guard since 1915. And whereas Clatsop County is part of the United States Coast Guard Northwest District, Sector Columbia River, home to 3 cutters and 5 operational units. And whereas the United States Coast Guard has operations in Astoria and Warrenton. And whereas the designation of the city of Astoria in Clatsop County as a Coast Guard city was renewed in 2021. And whereas we are stronger because of the dedication and support we receive from the United States Coast Guard. And whereas the men and women of the Coast Guard contribute many intangible benefits to the local community, in addition to the services they provide. They are our neighbors, our friends, as well as role models and mentors for our young people. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners wishes the United States Coast Guard a happy 235th birthday and does hereby proclaim August 2025 as United States Coast Guard Month in Clatsop County, and we invite all community members to join in this observance, honoring the dedication and service of the men and women in the United States Coast Guard in our community. Dated this 23rd day of July, 2025, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much for being here this evening.
Really appreciate it.
Chair Quaylen, members of the board, I was wondering if we could get a picture of the board and the Coast Guard, and maybe Monica or Amanda, if you could snap a picture for us. Thank you.
Oh, here comes Jen. Monica, Jen's here. Could she see it? Could she see it?
On YouTube, but it doesn't show on the Zoom.
Well, that's not good.
All right. Pretend like you know each other. All right. If you guys want to just squeeze in a little bit tighter there. There you go. All right. I'm going to take it with 2 phones, so don't go too far. And smile. Great. One more. Three, 2, 1. Okay, we did it. All right. Thank you very much. I may have taken a bunch.
That's what she's saying right now. Oh, she's texting you something. Wait, Bill, I'm just focused on food.
Careful.
Pretty much, you know.
All right. We will now move to business from the public. It's an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. And we do have Kaylee Kinney. Do you want to come up and come up to the table? And go ahead and your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Kaylee Kinney. I live at 92456 Mackey Road, Astoria, Oregon, 97103.
Okay. And go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kaylee Kinney. I've worked for Clatsop County since 2022, and I previously worked in Washington as an election administrator, and I've worked in county government for over 7 years. I'm currently employed with the Clatsop County District Attorney's Office as a trial assistant. As many of you are aware of the ongoing issues of the District Attorney's Office, and if you're not aware, I would encourage you to become aware of them because they are severe. There is a pending investigation into the conduct of the District Attorney's Office at this time. This was sparked by a public records request that revealed really threatening, bullying, toxic behavior within the office. These behaviors have been brought to HR, have been brought to management for years by past and
I have some past employees and past and present employees. These behaviors have been, I mean, there's been so many documented reports of these behaviors, valid, legitimate reports, and they have fallen on deaf ears, unfortunately. Now, fast forward to current times, there's many employees' lives that have been impacted severely by this. There's many employees out on leave for physical issues that have manifested from this, for mental health issues, family issues, the list goes on and on. With that many employees being out of an office of our size, you know, it's a ripple effect, a trickle-down effect. It's affecting the defense bar, it's affecting courts, it's affecting local law enforcement. But the real victims in this are the Clatsop County employees, your employees, that are good, hardworking people that want to show up to work every day, do their jobs, and they entrust in Clatsop County to have a safe environment to do those jobs in. And unfortunately, Clatsop County has failed to act on so many previous reports of this same type of behavior and the nature of this behavior for many years, and now it's severely impacting people's lives. I know for myself, I don't want to throw my career in county government away because of this, but I am terrified to walk back into the office at the end of my leave to see what faces me. And I support my family with my income, I provide insurance, and I love my job, and I don't want to throw that away. So what I'm here today is to urge the commissioners to get involved, to figure out, or to look into this, take a deep dive into these issues at hand, because they are very severe. So thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Kaylee.
You're welcome.
I understand there is an investigation underway. Do we have anyone else that would like to participate in public comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and close business from the public and move on to the consent calendar. Has anybody have any comments, questions?
No, I move to approve consent calendar.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll start with Commissioner reports and Commissioner Webb.
I think I'm going to sing my report tonight.
Yeah, well, it sounded great.
Actually, I don't have, I guess the latest thing, is from CREST, the Columbia River Estuary Strategic Task Force. I'm not sure I always get those things right. But because CREST receives so much of their funding from the Bonneville Power Administration, they are very under a lot of pressure because of decisions coming from the White House about, but the good news is that BPA is their contribution to organizations like CREST are written in federal legislation, and they are just continuing. And so far they haven't been touched. And apparently in the bill that was passed, that did the so-called Great Big Bill, they were touched, but not radically. And so it looks good. So it looks as if for the next fiscal year, or federal fiscal year, which starts October 1, they're going ahead with their budget, and we will actually be passing their budget tomorrow. And they're and I will give you, after tomorrow, actually, we'll have their work program. And so next meeting, I'll give you kind of some of the stuff that's going on. I still would like to suggest that we take some kind of an event, a little take of the members of the board all out to Fort Clatsop to actually show people. I'm hoping that maybe the sheriff could even put us in a boat, and we could take a little trip on the river to see all the fabulous work that CREST has been performing in that part of the estuary. It has really been significant and is finally coming to a close. And it's a very, very exciting project. And it actually looks like it did when Lewis and Clark were here, which is remarkable. I'm not sure we can say that about any of our rivers. So it's, I think it would be and it's all restoration. So it's all significant restoration. And the fish apparently are really enjoying it. So, oh. I shouldn't have said that.
That they're enjoying it.
Well, I know that so many of our good fishing venues in Clatsop County are big secrets. And so, I don't want to, I don't want to make anybody confused. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. The sheriff isn't here to know that he got signed up to take us all out on a boat riding.
Well, I'll let him know.
Okay. Mr. Bangs.
Fair is coming up next week. We drop animals this Sunday. So drop them, that came out wrong. We deliver all of the animals to Fair this Sunday. Really excited for the upcoming week. The kids are really excited. I've heard from a lot of businesses regarding the students coming and doing their fair letters. They've visited the hospital. They've visited a number of small businesses, passing out their fair letters, asking for folks to come. And I think it's been an extremely educational process this year particularly. I think the students have gathered the notice of our small business groups. They do it every year. I think my kids visit 30 different businesses throughout our community, and I know that every 4-H student does the same, and they just go and ask folks to come. They ask folks to come to our auction. They ask folks to look at their animals, potentially bid on their animals. It's just a fun thing for these students to do, and they have been working wonderfully on their public speaking. So I just invite everyone to make sure you come out to Fair, particularly come visit the animal facilities. These kids have worked really hard, some for 3 months, some for 6 months, some for an entire year, and especially if they have breeding stock. And so, yeah, just come out. I encourage everybody to do so. It's a lot of fun. And besides Fair, CFEDC has been diligently working on the 6th grade forestry tour this coming fall. The dates are set. The communications have been sent. They're circling back this fall again to make sure that communications have been sent with teachers. Teachers are able to acknowledge whether or not they're going to be able to make it. I know that Oregon Women in Timber are planning a covered, covered facility, but it's not a facility because it doesn't have a bathroom. It doesn't really have walls, but it's a covered space, working on grant funding for that, so that the kids that come visit the 6th grade forestry tour will have, it rains. If you have not been to the 6th grade forestry tour, I have been there the last couple of years. There are some days where it's torrential downpour. It is the wettest, muckiest mess ever. So, but Oregon Women in Timber are working hard and diligently to try to fund a overhang of some, I don't know how to describe it. It's not a yurt, but kind of something with a ceiling, so that the kids can at least have a place to congregate without getting soaked, or a place to have lunch, really. Beyond that, Northwest Senior and Disability Services, we have our in-person meeting next month. I'm actually really excited to go this year. I haven't been able to go in the past just because of, it falls in the middle of Fair. Who schedules these things? I don't know, but I'm going to be able to make some time and go down there and visit with folks in person, other than Zoom. Everybody looks different in person, taller maybe, I don't know.
Really?
And so, yeah, that'll be exciting. And then Forest Trust Lands Advisory Committee comes up again here in August, right before school starts. So, but people don't schedule things during the summer. It's interesting. It's been kind of an easygoing summer, so, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Northwest Oregon Housing Authority met last week. A lot of discussion about strategy and, whether more emphasis should be on property management. The voucher program is something that I'm still learning more about, and I think there's just a lack of staff. So they're still trying to bring on some additional people to help, promote full occupancy of their buildings and of their housing units. And then Colpack meets next week. Oh, no, excuse me, Colpack meets next month. And we did have two very big memorials for people from this community. One was for John England, and I've never seen that many people out at the fairgrounds in standing room only. It must have been 1,000 people there, and it just showed how loved he was, how respected he was. And then Jeannie Seppa's was the very next day out at Lewis and Clark Bible Church, and that too was full, standing room only. And just two very special people in our community passing, and it was great that so many came out to pay tribute to both of them. County Manager?
Derek Wheeler, members of the board. I had the opportunity to meet with Colonel Caswell from the Army Corps the other day and talked a little bit about the goal exceptions that will be coming to your board on August 13th and 27th related to some of the dredging sites that are going to be considered by your board. And then he also gave me an update to the spit and the fact that they are done transporting the big rock, and now they're just in the final phases of placing, and they plan to have a ribbon cutting at the end of August. So then that part of that will be done. So they'll do some rehabilitation work on the northern spit later, probably next year. But so we also talked about dikes and levees and him following up on the meeting that we had with some of his staff. So that was good. You know, I've said this before, but I think I've met with Colonel Caswell probably 4 times in the last 2 years, and that's how long he's been here. And I'm sure that that is very rare for the county manager. Yeah. And I thank him for it every time. But we're still working on advocacy for the Tongue Point Job Corps. You've seen some letters that have been worked on, and so that's an ongoing effort, and we'll stay attuned to the challenge and continue to do the advocacy on behalf of the board. If you listen to OPB, Alyssa Gertler was on Think Out Loud recently, today, I think, to talk a little bit about the Lease to Locals program, more as a potential program, but she did a great job. And it's just nice to have Clatsop County talk about housing issues, because they're obviously very important as we move forward, and trying to use every possible lever. So the other is that tomorrow afternoon I will be heading down to Tillamook to have a legislative session, follow up with Representative Javity, talk a little bit about TLT, where that might go during the short session, as well as the HOA bill that we were so close on, and also the transportation package. So, CFM will also be going down. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. And CFM will be coming to us. Is that, I forgot when that was, on the 13th? And please pass along our appreciation to Representative Javity, and he did carry the weight on so many of issues of importance, so we do thank him. All right, before we roll into the business agenda, if folks want to, this might be a great time. If you want to leave, you're certainly welcome to. And you can stay.
Is that an invitation or?
Thank you. All right, business agenda, appointment to the Wickiup Water District Board of Directors, page 141.
Over here, Chair.
Oh, yeah, County Council.
Thank you, Chair Quayla. Good evening, members of the board. I'm Anthony Pope, County Council. For your board's consideration this evening is the appointment of one member of the Wickiup Water District Board of Directors under ORS 198.320, subsection 1. This is due to the district's inability to establish a quorum. During the May 2025 election, 3 of the 5 positions on the Wickiup Water District Board were up for election. No candidates filed to run for the vacant positions. Although 2 individuals were elected through write-in votes, both have declined to serve. This leaves the Wickiup Water District without a functioning board. unable to conduct business or appoint new members to reach their quorum. Pursuant to ORS 198.320 subsection 1, the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners has the authority to appoint board members when a special district is unable to do so due to an insufficient number of remaining board members. The county has received a formal request from the Wickiup Water District for assistance in making the necessary appointment to restore a quorum. The district has recommended Rodney Bloom to be appointed as a member of the Wickiup Water District Board.
Thank you very much, County Council. We have any questions? Any comments?
Rodney Bloom here?
I don't know, was Rodney here? Rodney Bloom? Nope. Okay.
Does Rodney know he's being appointed?
That's correct, yes, he is, he's indicated a willingness to serve. That is a very important question, though.
Good, thank you.
Good clarification. All right. Ready for a motion?
Yep, I move to appoint Rodney Bloom to the Wickiup Water District Board of Directors pursuant to ORS 198.321.
I second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Rodney Bloom to the Wickiup Water District Board of Directors pursuant to ORS 198.320, subset 1. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Subset, thank you.
Oh.
I was like, parentheses, one? What is this?
And I think we will be doing this perhaps to Clatsop County Dyking District number 11 too, if we can find,
Chair, Cooler, members of the board, it kind of depends on whether they can appoint their own superintendent or not.
Right.
But if they don't, then yes, we'll be coming back to appoint a superintendent for District 11.
okay. Thank you. Next item is the Duane Street Annex TPO roof replacement. And Matthew Gerber, County Facilities Manager, welcome.
Chair Quayla, council members, please let me regale you on the DSA, which is, you may be asking what that is. That is the former jail. It is not the film museum. That is the old jail west of the courthouse. We're seeking contract approval in the amount of $168,738 to replace our TPO roof. That roof is over 35 years old. It's overdue. Currently, the DSA is in the county's facility inventory. It is vacant at the moment, has been vacant for a couple of years. But in an effort to maintain the building itself, we do need to replace that roof and look at anything we can do to harden that structure until we decide on what happens next. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you have any other questions, I can try to answer them for you.
Any DSA questions?
I love it. Duane Street Annex.
Is TPO, is that torch? What is that? TPO?
It's the thermoplastic, the
Thermoplastic.
membrane, the white
Okay.
roof that you see around.
Got it. Okay.
I want you to know that I had an opportunity to meet with the chair of our the executive director of the Clatsop Historical Society, who I've been trying to talk into buying the jail from us in order to expand the film museum. And I gave him my rap one more time, and he turned me down one more time.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
That's
I think it would
that's
make a
disappointing.
fabulous film museum. I really do. I mean, I think of the green room space and the old cells and those big rooms. You know, I think it was, but Mac,
Yeah. I think he has alternative
I
plans.
think he does.
Yeah.
And now he has the money for it.
Yep,
So
yep.
I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to be creative about our new use of the jail.
Yeah. Well, nice effort.
Maybe childcare.
Yeah.
They like windows.
They like, I don't think they want to be in a jail.
Kid jail.
Okay. Any other comments, questions on the TPO, on the DSA?
Sorry.
We're good.
I move to authorize the county manager to sign the contract and any amendments to perform the TPO membrane roof replacement at Duane Street Annex.
I second that motion.
Moved and seconded to authorize the county manager to sign the contract in the amount of $168,378 and any amendments to perform the TPO membrane roof replacement at the Duane Street Annex. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Matthew.
I guess the kids wouldn't be able to leave.
Yeah,
They'd be safe.
that sounds miserable. Okay. Next is a public hearing, ordinance 25-10, STR regulations for property zone coastal residential. Page 162. This is the continuation of a public hearing on ordinance 25-10, STR regulations for property zone coastal residential, or CR. County Council, may we have the second reading by title only?
Yes, this is ordinance number 25-110 in the matter of an ordinance amending Clatsop County Code Title V, Business Regulations, Chapter 5.24, to exclude property zone coastal residential CR from the Arch Cape STR operating standards.
Thank you, County Council. And do we have any additional information from Gail Hendrickson, our Community Development Director?
No additional information,
No
thank
additional
you.
information. All right. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
Yes, there are.
Okay. If you've signed up to testify, please wait until you are called, then give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Okay.
I have Vivian Simone Brown.
Vivian Simone Brown.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. Vivian Simon Brown, 79028 Cove Beach Road. Good evening. Here's one observation and one specific point I'd like to make about ordinance 2510. My observation: lumping seemingly similar rural areas together for ease in administration and code enforcement doesn't really work well with Clatsop County's geography. The original coastal residential designation acknowledged those topographical differences. Here we have different soils, a more unstable beach with cliffs, sharp drop-offs, strong rip currents. Aerial photographs show a moderately dense forest canopy. We're almost completely surrounded by protected lands. We have the Rainforest Reserve, Oswald West State Park, Cape Falcon Marine Reserve. We have low housing density with little and maybe even no public parking. Our water and roads committees are mostly all volunteers. Except for the STRs, we don't have any commercial businesses here. We're truly where the forest meets the sea. So my key point is this: the one rental per 7-day period is an excellent idea. It's a great longer-term solution. Visitors get to stay longer, become more invested in the community, which means they want to come back. The cleaners have more time to do better jobs. This spring, we watched one STR turn over 3 sets of renters in 7 days. That's 12 different visitors, 3 cursory cleanings with a turnaround time of less than 4 hours each, 8 different vehicles, including a septic service truck, which was pumping out their 1,500-gallon holding tank. Again, it was very busy, but not very cost effective, neither financially nor ecologically. Please keep the one rental per 7-day rule and enforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Yes, we have Rick Smith.
Rick Smith. Rick?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. So my name is Rick Smith, and my address is 79165 Ray Brown Road. And I've been a property owner for over 25 years. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners for the opportunity to speak today. I wanted to also say hi to Leanne, who happens to be our neighbor, because we haven't seen her at her home much this year, but I don't see her on the call today, so I hope all is okay with her and her family. My statement is simple. We and our Cove Beach neighbors oppose Ordinance 2510 that removes the 7-night limit and allows on-street parking. In Cove Beach, our gravel roads are narrow They're approximately 10 to 12 feet wide and can barely accommodate two cars from passing each other without one of the vehicles first slowing down and pulling off to the shoulder. So imagine what it's like when one of the vehicles is an 8-foot wide ambulance or a 10-foot wide fire truck. By allowing STR transients to park on the road, their vehicles will cause interference with these emergency vehicles as well as everyday traffic. I can only imagine the lawsuits if a family member loses their life because the emergency vehicle is blocked by one or more vehicles parked on the road. Regarding the removal of the 7-night limit, it appears this removal would be a sleight of hand, given that many residential zones had been led to believe it was included in the prior workshop discussions and planning meetings leading up to the adoption of Ordinance 2203. Please continue to govern the Cove Beach Coastal Residential Zone with the same 7-night limit as Arch Cape, and don't allow on-street parking in the Cove Beach CR zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Carrie Ann Fish.
Carrie Ann?
Hi, here I am. One moment. Now I've lost my text. One moment, please.
We can hear you, Carrie Ann.
It's Karen. Thank you. Hi, my name is Karen Fish. I live at 7978 Cove Beach Road. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to testify on the proposed ordinance 2510. There are 4 STRs within a block of my house. At one end of the block, an STR turns over constantly. It doesn't have even a septic system. So every week, or even occasionally twice a week in the high season, a huge tanker rumbles down our unpaved road, backs up the driveway, pumps out the sewage holding tank. At the other end of the block, another STR is turning over 3 times a week. It's really a steady flow of new customers to that business, along with new dogs, cleaning crews, and vehicles day in and day out. So the rule limiting rentals to 1 per 7-night period is a really good rule. To my knowledge, it's not been enforced in Falcon Cove Beach, but it should be enforced. It's a basic standard to preserve a fragile ecosystem, as well as neighborhood livability in a community that's likely to be stuck with the highest STR saturation in the county for many years to come. That said, we also cannot allow on-street parking here for STR customers. Our roads are too narrow. It's not just inconvenient, it's unsafe. I think others have noted this. So please keep and enforce the 7-night rule, prohibit on-street parking for STRs in Falcon Cove Beach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Teresa?
Denise Davis.
Denise?
Can you hear me?
Denise?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Jeff is going to speak. This is actually Jeff again. Sorry, I had a little trouble getting on.
Okay, Jeff, are you the one that's going to be presenting here?
The one, yes. So
Okay.
Jeff Davis, 79432 Ray Brown Road in Cove Beach. Thank you and good evening. I'm here again to ask one question about Ordinance 2510. How is it just that Arch Cape is allowed a 7-night reservation restriction while your board is seriously considering removing the 7-night limit from the arguably more ecologically fragile environment of CR-zoned Cove Beach? I'm sorry I couldn't attend your work session, but if your board is considering allowing STRs in the AC2 zone, you obviously have the willingness and the agility to customize the LADUC for floating residencies at the request of a single STR owner. Surely you can heed the voices of many Cove Beach residents and honor our request. The following 16 Falcon Cove Beach residents, some of whom you've heard tonight, have asked to be named in this testimony as supporting our appeal for your board to amend Section 512 to allow and enforce the 7-night reservation restriction for CR Zone Cove Beach. Bob and Jane Brown, Tide Road, full-time residents for over 5 years. Rick and Leslie Smith, Ray Brown Road, full-time for 13 years, but as you heard, has had property here for over 25 years. Nancy and Jeff Weil, Columbia Street, full-time for 12 years. Susan Phillips and David Rumker, Cove Beach Road, part-time for 12 years. Karen Fish and Adam Smith, Cove Beach Road, full-time for 5+ years. Jock and Beth Wise, Ray Brown Road, full-time for 11 years. Michael Knighton, Ray Brown Road, full-time for 33 years. Mark and Chance Feliski, Ray Brown Road, part-time for 13 years. And Vivian Simon Brown, Ray Brown's daughter, Cove Beach Road, who started visiting Cove Beach more than 70 years ago, became a part-time resident over 60 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's all the comments.
And I did see that Scott Harn was on there. Did he have, he provided testimony prior, and I was just curious if he was.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
I think, just to be clear, ordinance 2510 is about removing
Scott,
Cove
can you give
Beach.
your address for the record, please?
Sorry,
Name and address for
792.
the record.
Yeah, Scott Harn, 79238 Ray Brown Road in Cove Beach. I think just wanted to emphasize that 2510 is about removing language and removing the CR zone from the older ordinance due to some procedural errors that were made. It wasn't voted in properly, and therefore it needs to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, no one else to, okay, we'll go ahead and allow for staff to provide any additional comments.
No comments.
Okay. Do we have any discussion? Are we ready to close the public hearing? Okay, we're closing the public hearing. Discussion, motion, what's your pleasure?
I could use a little bit, I guess from staff, could you just give me a little history on why we separated these two?
So, Arch Cape has had its own short-term rental operating standards since 2003. And they were specific for Arch Cape. None of the other zones in the county had any operating standards for short-term rentals. Even though they were there, they were paying room tax, there were just no ordinance. So in 2018, the county adopted an ordinance that covered all the rest of the places in unincorporated county. And then over the years, as we've amended the ordinance, we've had discussion about caps, and especially in between 2020 and 2022, there were a lot of work sessions and meetings with the board. And at one particular work session, which I believe was January of 2022, there was discussion with the board about including Cove Beach with with Arch Cape under the same set of operating standards. Since they were geographically in the vicinity of each other, they had similar concerns, and there was that discussion amongst the board. And so staff, when we drafted the ordinance, put that change in, but because for whatever reason, we just never remembered that we did it. We never enforced it. We never thought about it again after we put it into the ordinance. And it wasn't until we were approaching the second reading of the ordinance for caps that it was pointed out to staff that we were, well, let me back up for a second. When we did the caps ordinance as part of that cleanup, staff looked at that language in the Arch Cape and where we had added in and Cove Beach residential neighborhood and thought it was a mistake and took it out. Because we had, and we, when I say we, I mean I, didn't remember that discussion from January of 2022, that work session, why we had made that change. And so we proposed taking it out. And nobody thought about it or caught it until right before the second reading of the short-term rental cap ordinance that we did earlier this year. And so this change would take
Cove Beach, that coastal residential neighborhood, back to the standards they began operating under in 2018 with the original ordinance that covered all the rest of the county. So that was a very long explanation. I apologize for the length of that, Commissioner, but just to kind of give you the bigger picture of how we ended up in this position today. Did I address your question?
No, I think so. I guess I just, I'm kind of a little stunned by the testimony from tonight. And I guess I don't remember that. I thought we had combined them, so, I'm sorry, it's my mistake, it's my mistake.
We're just correcting what, you know, and bringing it back to what it was originally, and we've had a lot of discussion about this issue over the last, few months, so I feel comfortable in adopting as presented.
I move,
Motion?
yeah, I move to adopt ordinance 2510 as presented.
Do we have a second? Okay, I'll second. I'll go ahead and second. It's moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 25-10 as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. Okay, all those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So we have a,
Yeah, Chair, we would need three,
yeah, we
yes
don't
votes
have
for
a
it to
quorum.
pass.
Can we move to, do we have time for a second reading? Can we table it to 2 weeks from now?
We could reschedule the
And we
hearing,
need to
continue the hearing.
have more of the body, more of the board available here to vote.
But Chair, I think it'd be appropriate to have a vote that, continue it to a further meeting, and you would only need 2 aye votes for that to be successful.
I move
Move to
to continue, what is the date I'm shooting for? Anybody?
The August 13th.
I move to continue, discussion and second reading to August 13th? 13th.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to continue the hearing on ordinance 25-10 to the August 13th meeting. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. And we don't have any other public hearings this evening, so do we have anything for the good of the order?